Greetings everyone, I'm Sami Laakso from Snowdale Design and I welcome you to the stream where we will be comparing Peacemakers Horrors of War with its predecessor, Dawn of Peacemakers. I have them here set up on the, well not set up, but I have them here on the table and we will go through multiple things in them and compare. And one of the things I would probably want to start with is the setup. So I'm going to set up both games, and we have actually timers, and we are going to see which one takes longer and how much to actually set up. And we will start with Dawn of Peacemakers, and then we will see how it compares to the new Peacemakers Horrors of War. If you have any questions during the stream, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments, and I will try my best to answer all of them during our stream, especially if the questions are about comparing the games between each other. And without further ado, let's get to the first comparison, which is the setup time. And for this, we are going to hide that one, and we have let's see, yes, this should be correct. We have timers for both. Welcome to the stream, Anton. I hope you enjoy our today's stream. So we are going to put the new game to the side for now, and concentrate on the previous one. And we're going to have a timer on how long it takes me to set up Dawn of Peacemakers first scenario right here. And let's see. Let's readjust the camera just a bit, because I'm going to be roughly here doing the setup. And so sure, let's start with the box closed, and that's easy thing to compare them to each other. So let's go and start our timer for Dawn of Peacemakers setup for scenario 1. And with this one we have some extra papers we don't need right now, but we do need the campaign booklet. So we're going to find, yes, here's the setup diagram for the first scenario. So let's go and open the game board. Trying to make it roughly on screen. There we have the sideboards for both armies. We can first build up the terrain. I think the blue army is facing right. I'll put the blue army stuff for the mock-ups here. It's a bit off screen, like there. So usually I would put this elsewhere, but this is where we have space on the stream, so it doesn't affect the time, but I will put them there. Tiles. We need the tower somewhere. Don't need that one. We don't need, oh yes, we do need one of those. Fortresses. We need, yes, we do need another one of these. They go like this, I believe, and following the diagram over here. Finding the correct pieces. Here's the river, bunch more river tiles with more towers, I don't think. Here. And We do need this one. Forest over here. Another one here. One more. And we do need plenty of river tiles. And one here. Curve below the tower. And more river tiles here. This goes like that. I see Anton is writing something, but to not slow down, I'm not going to read it yet. I saw something about this taking maybe 10 times longer than the new one. We'll see. And I think that should be the terrain now done. Yes, we have the frontline signs. We need the motivations. So the blue one is at 6 and the red army is motivation at 4. Die. Take the tokens later. Lloydex. Not that one. Finding the cards here, have them somewhat organized. These ones we do need, but even when you organize, it's not super fast to find. That's the units. Those ones we don't need. That's ocelots and macaws. Need to find the extra one if there's any that I need to take away. I think it's in the different pile, yes, so that's correct for this one. This is the correct one for those. We don't need the rest of the remaining tiles. Then we need to follow the instructions to build the army decks. So I do need the change of plans for the blue ones. One circle move, not the other one. I need both strikes. One cover. No, the rest of the circles go away. One star move. Not the other one. The strikes, yes. The cover. And that's it for this one. That's here. And we need to do the same here for the red army. We do need to change of plans. One circle move. 2 strikes. One cover. That's the circles. We don't need the stars. We do need the gears. No movement. We have 2 strikes. 2 covers. Yes. Now we have this. Yes, we need the unit cards. We need Commander Sotsiamak and Macaw Soldier from here. Macaw Soldier. Commander Sotsiamak. Ocelot Archer. And Warrior. Those. We have some reference cards. We have the resource deck. These ones go here. We need adventurers who start in the on the bridge style here. One leader, 3 soldiers, 2 circles through 2 stars. For the ocelot, we need 1 archer and 2 warriors. That's 2 warriors, 1 archer, 1 circle, and 2 gears. Those. I think that now we need the modifications. Well, this is the damage, but we need damage and fortifications somewhere. Opening those up from the insert. We are almost there, but not quite, so that's done with the box. We're gonna shuffle the resource deck. Let's say that that's enough. Goes here. We have some reference cards. Maybe 2 is enough for us. The base is the archer is a gear like this. And these are both a 1. And the archer is in the tower. And the circle warriors here, and the gear is over there. Leader is in the star shape for the macabres. And the rest have just soldiers. And where is the leader? Leader is between the bushes. Here and there. That should be that's done. Shuffle these. Yeah, Anton says prediction that it takes 10 times faster to set up Horrors of War. Nearing the 10-minute mark. Giving these a shuffle, we could shuffle a little bit better because they're in order from picking them up from building up the decks. These are not as ordered. Like this. Just making sure everything is nice and neat. Roughly like we need space bit below this for the text. That should be pretty good. Then we need resource cards. Resource cards for all 4 players. That's their starting hands. And I think we would be ready to play now. So that was set up for the first scenario, building up the decks based on the list on the map on the campaign book, placing the units on the board based on the map, and building the map as well. And that's from someone with experience with the game, so of course it would be a little bit probably slower for you to make it for the first time. We have the fortifications here too. Yeah, everything is a little bit wonky, but that's set up. Now we would be ready to start playing Dawn of Peacemakers. You might be able to make it a little bit faster with experience, and especially if the multiple players are building or helping with the setup. So someone builds the map and someone else does all of this, for example. how does anyone perceive the rejection of miniatures in the new edition? Mostly the feedback of changing the miniatures for the meeples, which we will see in just a moment, has been a really positive one. People like the personality of the new meeples, and the thing is that even while the miniatures are nice, it can make the game look a little bit more like a war game when it's well, it's a peace game. It's about ending wars, so it can give a false, wrong first impression when it's you see the miniatures. So I'm not going to take time how long it takes to put everything back, but let's throw this somewhere roughly away so I can make space for the new edition. But teardown is also similar to the setup that it will take more. If the setup is longer, the teardown will also be longer. And this is a really simple scenario for the first for Peacemakers, and it can definitely take longer, way longer to do the some of the further scenarios, because there's 3 factions. You have more units, you need to pick up more cards, you need to make more complex complex maps, you need to put more units on the board, you have more decks you have to build, and of course the chance of doing a mistake and putting some cards in the wrong place or having wrong cards in the order decks is a possibility, and the chances increase the more complex the scenario is. Let's put everything away. That's almost it. Let's disassemble the map. And the map is double-sided, so the other side is like a desert theme. And the unit cards. And if you want to organize the decks, for example, properly, to have everything like the different groups and stuff, it's a bit of a pain and takes more longer than I'm now kinda throwing stuff here and not organizing them everything perfectly. And the map. That aside. And the new edition. Welcome to the stream, Bartek, and I'm sorry for not pronouncing the other person's name. It's in Cyrillic alphabet, and unfortunately I cannot read that. Are we betting on this setup? I guess 1 minute may not be enough, so I say I can't see the YouTube's chat now has the emoji reaction sometimes on top of the chat, so it's sometimes can't read it out. I think it's 2 minutes, so 5 times faster. So let's figure that out. I'm going to start the timer in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see. Lead rulebook, scenario stuff. Actually, we don't need rulebook. First scenario, map books, welcoming letter. Let's open the map box for the first scenario and put it here. First scenario cards. Based on the backs, let's put them here. Give them a shuffle. These are never really ordered, so they can be shuffled faster because of that. The other ones in the original are you have to build them, so they're always in order when you start, so you need to shuffle them really good to make sure that they're ordered in their proper order. Damage away here. The fortifications. And you can see that the adventures start here on the river as well. Tokens. Like so. We take the horror deck, the resource deck, give them a shuffle. Like so. Then we need the units, which we can see built on the map box as well. So we need one Ocelot warrior, 2 archers, 3 Macaw soldiers, the leader. Stars, we need 1 here, 1 here. Circles, 2 circles, 1 circle, and 2 gears, and the die. This is A, he goes here. This is B, he starts over there, and then we have C and D, which are here and here. The Ocelot warrior E starts over there, and the archers are F and G over there. And we still need the starting motivations, which we can see like that, and we should be done. Ooh. That took 2 minutes and 39 seconds compared to 10 minutes and 40 seconds. And this similarly can be done a little bit faster if you have someone shuffling these decks and these, and someone else basically placing the units on the board. So I'd say that with 2 people doing it, you could go get it under 2 minutes even. Asking, are the scenarios different? Yes, each scenario is different. They have their own different map and everything, all different cards. So we can find the units from the front, and we can find the scenarios cards from back here, and you can pick the correct cards for the correct scenario based on that. But that is the setup time comparison. So that's pretty. We have pretty clear winner here, which one took less time for similar scenario. Some scenarios here also had 3 factions, and you need to place more decks here, and you need to shuffle a few more, but you don't need to assemble any more decks, so it's still fast to just place them here, and you can find easily where they belong by simply matching the card back with the card slot on the map book. And the map book makes sure that everything is like neatly organized like this. There's no unit cards, they're printed over here, so they are not going to move around or anything. You just flip the map book open and you're done. What was Anton's? No, I don't remember your time on your video, but you can remind me how long it took for you in your preview to set up the game. I think I could squeeze still a few seconds away if I make it again and again, but I tried to make it relatively realistic in not like throwing stuff around, but making sure everything is correct, and you can compare both of these. So first times you can easily take 15 minutes or more for Dawn of Peacemakers, and even Peacemakers can take 5 minutes or something, but that's still really fast. I mean, are the scenarios different, the two versions of the game? Yes, that's correct. They are different. So even if the starting positions in this first scenario are pretty similar, the order decks are totally new, and this is the only scenario that has anything vaguely similar in first and the second game in Dawn of Peacemakers compared to Horrors of War. So this is the only one that has any similarities between the games, and this is like the kinda like tutorial with more of these purple tooltips or reminders of different rules in here. And let's see, the next aspect we can compare. I don't have a definite list to go through, but we can start because this was asked. We can go and compare some of the scenarios and the differences between them. And for that, we can take the campaign booklet for Dawn of Peacemakers. So Dawn of Peacemakers has 12 scenarios, and they are supposed to be placed in order as a campaign with the same group of players. So you have 12 scenarios, and while we did include a lot of replay value in them, most people I have heard have just played the campaign and either finish it or not finish, but even if they do, they don't go back to revisit the game too much. So you play 12 different scenarios. And as for Horror of War, the game comes with 6 scenarios. So while it is half the number of scenarios from Dawn of Peacemakers, the scenarios here are way more different between each other compared to this one, where while the scenarios are different, some people did voice their concerns that some of them can feel a little bit samey, especially because the order decks in this one are always built from the same pool of cards. So there's a limited number of different stuff we can do when we reuse the same cards again and again. But here we have 6 scenarios, and each scenario has entirely new decks, so we can do wildly different stuff in each scenario. Bartek is asking me to compare how long the rulebook is and how many pages there are. Yes, good suggestion. I'll do it after the scenario comparison. And to give you an idea, I already showed you the first scenario setup. So this is the first one, and the different sides with their card decks and such. So you can see it's a river with a really similar layout to this one. And this is obviously going to be somewhat spoilery for Dawn of Peacemakers. If you own it and don't want any spoilers, look away for a minute or two. Here's the second scenario, and you can see it's pretty similar to the first one. There are more differences between the scenarios going onward, but the second one is quite similar to the first one, as we felt like maybe we want more time to teach people, and gave them 2 chances to do so. And we can I think we can hide the timers. But with the new game, because each scenario is designed to be replayed multiple times, it's enough for us to include one kind of simple scenario which you can use to teach new players. And if you lose it or you don't feel like you're ready for the additional challenge, you can go back and replay the first scenario with or without the added extra challenges that there are, which we can also compare between the games. But because there's built-in replay value, and the game is designed to be replayed the same 6 scenarios instead of playing a campaign, we don't need to include more than one tutorial kinda like scenario. And let's see the next scenario here. It's starting to be a lot different. Like the ocelots are defending against a huge attack from the Macaws. There's no river and there's a large fortress. And there's some of the scenarios also include events in them in Dawn of Peacemakers. They are like one-time big things that take place during the scenario, but this is something we don't have in Horrors of War. We do not have large one-time events in the scenario, and the main few reasons for this is that these do not support replay value that much, because once you know the large big event, it's no longer that surprising or interesting that it happens. Bartek says that how many rule books there actually are. Yeah, we can compare the rule books, page count, the number of rule books, and how long the rules actually are. Or we can take all of that into account. But instead of like huge, large events, we try to build like small scale events in these order decks. So instead of having one big event in the scenario that gets old pretty fast, playing multiple times, we have like mini events in these order decks. Like in the second scenario, the Tuatara pirates can have a party, and that's like a mini event that then can take place. And we thought that would better serve the replay value in the game. But that's definitely one difference between the scenarios. And here's we have the scenario number 4, where the ocelots and some bear units are fleeing away from the Macaws who are giving chase to them. So another example of what kind of scenarios there are. But one thing about this is that the visuals of the scenarios make them feel a bit samey, even if the mechanics are quite different, because they are all played on the same game board. So even if you build the scenarios differently with using different tiles, the overall everywhere you don't have a tile, it looks the same. So we have two different options: either it's the desert map or it's the grassland/jungle map. So the scenarios look a bit similar because of this. But as for Peacemakers Horror of War, let's move this aside so we can have an example of the scenarios. So this is the first scenario where we have grasslands, a bit of jungle here on the sides, and a river going through. The second scenario features an ocean. Here I have my webcam in a bit on the way, so let's move this like so. So we can see that there's a large body of water and an isolated pirate boat, and this is something already that was not possible in Dawn of Peacemakers, because we could not have so many tiles in the game that we could actually like build a sea. So we did similar things in there, where we made a canyon that you can't go through. So we could do mechanically similar to this, but it would look more samey to other scenarios because it's built with the same tiles. So visually, all the different scenarios in Horrors of War are a lot more different to each other. Not sure if there's anything else to compare that much when it comes to the scenarios. So maybe we go to the rule books. So comparing the rule books, and that's going to be our next step, where we have the rule book for Horrors of War and this is the campaign booklet for Dawn of Peacemakers. And in addition to those, I think we can put them, close the map books to make us a bit more space. And where do I have it? Here. So, Dawn of Peacemakers comes not only with the campaign booklet, but it comes with the skirmish booklet, and comparing the game modes is something we definitely need to do. But it also comes with an index booklet. So there's two different game modes in Dawn of Peacemakers. There's the campaign and a skirmish, where you actually control the armies and they fight each other. And here's an index booklet which has all the different rules in alphabetical order with the table of content on the contents of on the first page. So there's 3 different rule books, and depending on if you're forgetting a rule, you can try to find it from one of these, or you can use the index booklet and the table of contents to hopefully find the rule you're looking for and jump there and read the rule. And then we have the Peacemakers Horrors of War. First, you may notice that we did reduce the size of the rulebook, so a little bit on both sides, and it's even more obvious when you open them side by side, because then of course the size difference increases when you have both open. So it was to make the game feel a bit more approachable, and for the rulebook to take less space on the table if you want to keep it and reference some of the parts in it. And one difference is also that here we have iconography, keywords, and round overview on the back of the rulebook, which we did not do on the index booklet. We did not do it in the skirmish booklet, and well, we didn't do it on any of the booklets in Dawn of Peacemakers. Instead, we had, let's see, find it. It's here. Instead, we had this one, or we have 4 copies of this tiny little reference card for attack resolution and attack prioritizing, and that's it. We didn't have anything else. And again, one extra thing to move around on the game board. And both of those are still here. Attack targeting prioritization and attack resolution. Both of those are here. But in addition, we have all the different items, the keywords, and the round overview here right on the back of the rulebook. So you don't need to go look for that. Was it hard to reduce the amount of army units that are placed on the map? Noticeable more seems to be. Yes, there's more units on the game board in general in Dawn of Peacemakers compared to the new game. And one of the reasons Dawn of Peacemakers had so many units in many of the later scenarios was that was our main way to make the scenarios a bit longer and be able to increase the starting motivations, because the main way in Dawn of Peacemakers to reduce the motivation of the armies was to get army units defeated. So if we wanted higher starting motivations, we had to put, well, more units on the game board. As for Horrors of War, we wanted to make it so that you can actually win every scenario without any units getting defeated. And we wanted every defeated unit to count for more, like feel more impactful, and that's why we have also the horror cards. And so each unit has a bigger role, and it's less like a cannon fodder that just gets defeated at one point or another. And it made also help keep the scenario like more compact, as in Dawn of Peacemakers we had the game board is really huge, which made it possible to have really long spans, or the scenarios being really large in scale. And you can see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hexes this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on that way. So both directions it's 9 space, 9 hexes. But the new map book is the same horizontally. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can have long scenarios spanning long distances in one direction, but we only have 5 spaces from in vertical direction. And that made it also like, okay, let's scale down the scenarios with the units and let's concentrate on what's really important, and let's make every space count as much as possible. For example, here we have units on the top row and we have units on the bottom row, but you really don't need rows here nor here. But we do need the horizontal space, so we designed the scenarios to better fit the more streamlined, compact version, which also has a smaller map footprint. But that's all comparing the maps and not the rule books, but that's that's fine. I'll try my best to answer all the questions. Is the font smaller in the rulebook or less text on the page? It's the same size of text, just less less of it. So if we compare, for example, here's the tables of content, the actual text on both rulebooks is the same. So the smaller book also showcases how much smaller the rule set is, and it takes actually less space, less pages as well, which we'll take a look next. So the campaign booklet also includes the base rules for the game. Let's put some of this a bit aside to make more space for us to work with. So here we can compare. So the skirmish book index has all the rules in alphabetical order, and the skirmish booklet has just the skirmish rules. So let's take those away right for now and just compare the layout and amount of rules for the campaign mode slash the only mode, which is in Peacemakers, the cooperative scenario based rules. We have the list of components. Horse of War has a little bit fewer components. So like, for example, in the original unit, all of this, including the, well, even more so the tiles, the sideboards for motivation, the game board, and the units, all of those are combined together in the map books, so it takes less space on the space. Here too, we have some units, and we have larger amount of different kind of units in Horse of War. The number of them is really similar, but we have less duplicates. We have more unique, different ones. And we have the bases. We have the bases here. We have fewer bases because in the original, the color of the base determines the army the unit is in, and in the new one, it's actually the color of the meeple that determines the army. So we need less of these, as these can be shared between the sides. We have the same amount of damage and fortification tokens over here, and well, this one as well. The frontline signs are also incorporated in the map books, basically by showing which direction a unit looks, which is different as we don't actually need the frontline signs anymore. We have some insignia tokens. We don't have those anymore. They were used to differentiate between different leaders and such, like things of that nature. Anything like that is again in the map books if we need something like this. Event tokens, we don't have large scale events. Starting player token, we don't need starting player token because there's a free-flowing turn structure where anyone can take turns. Glass beads we have in both, the custom die we have in both. The souvenir token was just for fun because we had space on the punch board. We don't need that one because we don't have this one. Campaign log, scenario log, welcoming letter, 3 rule books, 1 rule book, a lot of different sealed components like cards and miniatures, and we have already listed all the cards and miniatures here. So that's the components for both. The first page doesn't really have rules, just game overview, credits and stuff, kind of similar in both. Then we have the next spread, which is different card types, and this one has rules in it, but all of this page, this spread doesn't exist in the new game, so that's one full spread less that you need to read in order to start the game. We managed to incorporate anything we do need, like the insignias and groups and the order cards in a different spread without adding a new spread for that. And the unit cards as well, they are explained partly on the map books, partly here on setup, but there's not much to explain actually. And some of the things like ranks for different units we don't have anymore. Abilities for units, we don't have abilities printed on the map books for the units are here at all. All of those are in the order decks, which is only possible because we have scenario specific order decks. Is there something else here? We are explaining the resource cards. That's now on the spread for the adventure phase, and all of this is on the page for the army phase, and some of this we don't even need anymore. And then we get to the actual setup, which is a bit like we have the actual physical setup, and here's the map, and the following rest of the scenarios only have this and not the physical setup like that. And this is now laid out over here with the full spread, and this had 12 steps to complete the scenario, and the new one we have nine steps to complete, mostly thanks to the map books, which you have less individual steps to do. Then we have a new spread, so we have terrain types listed here. We don't have terrain explained here at all. Those are in the map books explaining the simple terrain that we have, as well as the back of the rulebook explains the terrain types and icons. So we don't need those inside here. Round overview is over here, and we have that condensed here and some of the general stuff. And then we have the adventure phase with no pictures or anything, and that's like the main thing on this page is the adventure phase with pictures and some examples, and even the addition of horror cards, which was not in the original at all. And the next spread is the army phase, where we have to accompany for some of this is just in the campaign version, some of them in skirmish version, but those are not written out here. We have some speeds, and those are handled a little bit differently. But basically we also streamlined the army phase to fit this smaller format. You can really see how much less we have text on this one compared to this one, and bigger images and stuff. And that is the end of the base rules for both rule books. And then here we have some of the flavor text that you can read if you want. Some of that was on the original was on the cover, but this was kind of too early for you to read that, so we found it's more suitable after the rules over here, and that made it possible to have the table of contents on the first page. And this campaign booklet doesn't actually have a table of contents in it at all. And then we have the first scenario, and all the scenarios in the new game are separate with the flavor on the left and the actual mechanics, and also a flavorful image on the right. So that's the first one. This is the second scenario, and the rest have not been printed on this rulebook quite yet. So that should cover most of the differences between the rule books. And yeah, what's the next one you suggested? The rulebook sizes, yes, we did that, and the number of the rulebooks. We can definitely compare. We can compare miniatures and the meeples. And Bartek's saying the fluff text about units in old rulebook was nice, but probably only for the one reading it. So the old rules, whenever there was a new unit shown or introduced, you had a flavor text for that unit. So in the new one, we don't have it in the rulebook, but we have scenario-specific general flavor. But we also have in the map book, we have flavor text on the actual on the units like this. So that's kind of similar to that. And this one also includes some hints on how to approach a scenario and what kind of cards you might expect from their order decks. Here's one for the second scenario. So we do have that in more condensed form, still available in the new game in that format. And something new we had here is that the scenarios have direct quotes, like dialogue from the adventures. So they get a little bit more personality this way compared to the old one where we just had a passive voice like this. But now we have that one and the dialogue for the adventures, both for each scenario and for the like intro text. But there's definitely more story in the original one compared to Peacemakers Horse of War. At least if you compare just the written amount of text. But we found that the order cards being scenario specific can give a lot of flavor in their mechanics for the different army units and especially leaders. So there's a little bit more story coming from the mechanics in the new one, in our opinion. But then I wanted to compare the miniatures and meeples. I had something I also wanted to compare after this. Some resource cards. Yes, we want to take a look at resource cards and maybe horror cards or the absence of horror cards in the original. But let's take the books here. So here's Dawn of Peacemakers, and also, well, at the same time we can take a look at the inserts. So while the original did have a real nice insert, also space for the game board to sit on top in the middle, it is a little bit problematic with the cards. So there are these tabs here between, so the cards do not mix together. But the thing is that the game has so many different card types that you do not have an own slot for all of those card types. So you do need to mix them a little bit. Like I have units, reference cards, and resource cards, for example, in this first one. Then I have all the left sides for different factions here, and different colored right halves here, and then a mix of various different cards over here. So you can organize it quite nicely, but not everything has its own place. And here we have the agenda and outcome cards in my version. But for example, this slot here is used for the campaign deck, which has a lot of lock cards in it, so you can only take few cards between different scenarios, and then the game asks you to stop taking new cards and play some more. And after the campaign, you can use this slot for something else. So it's a little bit even more problematic or for organization during the campaign, because this space here you can't use because it's used for the campaign deck. But now I can use it for the agendas and outcomes, which the game has quite a pile of. But the cards have been moved up in here, and the miniatures and meeples are here in the original over there, and they are now down here. Not a big change. They could be either way, but we made them this way for the new one. As these ones, you just take one and that's it. It's really fast to take the correct decks. But these ones you need to take, oh, let's take this one, and you need to pick and choose a bit more here, and it's closer to you if you have it this way. Obviously you can just flip the box other way around too. So there's of course that. And we managed to put the adventures right in the middle, as they are front and center that way, compared to them being over on the side here. And we don't have the map tiles, and now we have spaces for the insignia tokens, and we have our own space for the glass beads and the die, which didn't have their own space in the original, and I just drove them here or here usually. And the damage and fortifications, well, they can be put in both of those, like so. So they're pretty similar, but the army units is a little bit, they can be a bit painful, but more so the cards, and they are really straightforward with the new one. And well, let's finally go to the miniatures and meeples, which I put on the title here. So the new one, we have wooden meeples with rubber bases that can come off and be put in them really easily, but they do not come off when you are actually playing the game. So they are really nice. And in the original, we had these like miniatures with really common 20mm base on them, and then we have these colored bases in different shapes. Let's find all of them. Start here. So in the original we have different shapes like this, but as you can see, they can look a little bit similar to each other, especially if you look them from far away. But in the new one, because here we had the miniatures themselves had this circular base, so they all look a bit circular because of that. But in the new one, we were able to make them a lot different from each other. So even if the shapes are similar, like circle, star, and gear, they are a lot different from each other and more easily recognizable even from farther away. And they all have their own nice spot in the insert, so it's fast to find them, and units have all their own plots that you can just drop them in, and the bases are really easy and fast to take off. And that's comparing both miniatures and meeple and their bases and the insert as well. So let's next go and take a look at the resource cards. That was on my mind. So comparing the resource cards. And let's find some from the old one. Here's a look on the resource cards from the old game, and here's a resource deck here. Which card would be a great example? For example, let's take the first emergency care. I think that would be a great an easy example if I can find it from here as well. On the left we have Dawn of Peacemakers, emergency care. On the right we have the new one. So, well, the icons are really similar, but you can see the addition of the delegate action, where you can give cards to other players. So that's a new one. And also some of the cards have this card plus icon. So with the old emergency care you could move 2 spaces if you wanted, but with the new one you can move 1 space and you get a new card. So not all cards have this card plus, but some of them do. So movement is a little bit cheaper in the new game. And the even bigger change is this one. So all cards have special bonuses for a specific adventure. For example, emergency care, the old one, you could remove 2 damage tokens from a unit, but the new one lets you do the same thing, but if you are Tambatrok, the Gold Dust Daygecko, you can actually remove 4 damage tokens. So all cards have their bonuses for different adventures based on, well, the effect is stronger if you are the specific one, and that gives you intensifies to use the delegate action, which we didn't have before. Some other things, it looks small on the card, but it's actually really big change, is that the top icon on the left is a card icon, which was called influence, and the new one is replaced. It's replaced by this survey action, which is an eye symbol. So while here it looks just small change, but in reality it's a big one, rules wise, as the old one. You could, with the influence action, you could draw the few cards, or as many as there are icons, and you could play multiple cards from an order deck. You could look at them, you could reorder them as you wish, and then you put them back. So it was quite the big action and really strong one, and you did that a lot during the game. But in this new one, this survey action simply lets you flip the topmost face down card face up. So you can do that, or if you now use a second action, you can do it like this. You can't reorder them, which makes it a little bit more limited, so you need to be more creative on how you approach different situations. And it's a lot more easier to understand, but also makes the game more rich, as you can't solve everything with just influencing and changing the order. You still have cards or new cards that you are able to use to change the order of the cards, but then you need to do that separately from the survey action, where you just reveal some of them. And we do have some other changes, like some of the effects have been redesigned, and some effects have been like, this is a bit similar, but still quite different. Like the old encouraging words let you give units guard, which is a keyword we don't have anymore, and the new one gives them defense. This is like a similar effect, kinda has having something to do with defending, but the old game, I didn't take all of them. Let's see, there's some effects that we changed all together. So which one do we have here? Because there are a few. These cards do not exist anymore. The left one gave company in stealth, which gave me, and it was in effect as long as you don't move, so that made you quite passive, and we didn't like that. And the distraction let you reduce the range to 1 of your nearby units, and that was used pretty rarely. So those two we removed entirely, and they are replaced by consultation, which lets you reorder the cards in the order decks. So this is kind of like doing what the old influence action did. And then we also have new card for Tambatro called Hurry Up, where you give the units more speed, which didn't exist in the original game. That's a really fun one. Bartek's asking, are the adventure bonuses only in scheme text, or can there be icons based on adventure? So they are only on schemes, and the icons are the same no matter who uses the card. We did think about those that as well, like maybe we can add cards that have icons, just extra icons for specific adventures. But we tried to balance between having enough differences between the cards if you play it or a specific adventure plays it, or if any, and not having too little and too much. So the card should not be like, I always must give this to the correct adventure for them to give the maximum benefit. And also, like with solo play, you only have one player, so you can't even use the others. So it was a balancing act of having enough, but not too much. Sometimes you are totally fine playing the card as the worst action with a different adventure, and this is like the really sweet middle ground. And we didn't need to make the icons more messy with small adventure icons there or something like that. So this is the end result we came up with. I'm just thinking like showcasing a little bit of the horror cards, as that's a little bit difference, but I'm thinking, what do I compare it to, as we don't have that. I guess we can go through some of the missing and new features, as we did remove some stuff and we also did add some stuff. And something we removed, already discussed, is the here is the skirmish game mode, where you could control the armies and fight each other. And that's we made a survey and we asked how many of you actually have played that, of those who own Dawn of Peacemakers, or at least those who own and did answer to the survey. And the percentage of people actually playing the skirmish mode was really, really small. And we removed it as it limited the design space we could have with the different order cards, as now we don't need to worry about them being like balanced if you control the armies. Like if you want to fight with Macavs against the Ocelots, the cards do not need to be balanced. The Ocelots can be, for example, be stronger than the Macavs if we want them to be, as you need to do the balancing, as you're not playing those, but we actually want them to be mismatched in with the strength, that one side would more easily win the other, so you have to work hard to not let that happen. So we don't have the skirmish mode, as it opened a lot more design space for the scenarios, as well as making it clearer, making the theme of the game clearer, where it's called Peacemakers, so you actually always control a peacemaker, and it's not about warfare and about winning each other like that. So that's something we removed. And something else, well, the campaign we talked already, why we removed the campaign and replace it with individual scenarios. We removed the terrain tiles, but that's more like replaced with the map books. One large thing we did remove, basically a lot comes to the same reasons as the skirmish, is the agendas. So the original game had agendas that you need to fulfill in order to win the game. And you could choose cooperative agendas, or you could choose individual agendas where you need to, again, fulfill a certain condition for you to win. And these also, they were a big part of the original game, but they made the team a little bit more muddy, as again you are not all working always together to bring peace. But we wanted to again make this game clearly about peace, like you're working together always, and there's no traitors, no semi-cooperative aspects, you don't control the armies and things of that nature. So that's also one large thing that we did remove, but it was also not advertised in the original game, so it was more like a thing you unlock during the campaign, but then it might not be something you are interested when you are buying a game named Dawn of Peacemakers. So we figured that the new game would be better off without semi-cooperative or traitor aspects. Those are some of the biggest things we stripped away. There's some streamlining with the rules and stuff, but that doesn't change the identity of the game. But those are some that, especially if you like traitor games and semi-cooperative games, the new one is not that one. It's not the game like that, so keep that in mind whether you are, it's something you might enjoy or not. And then to the things that we added to the game, and I think the biggest single addition, as the name of the game implies, is the addition of horror cards. And these, when a unit gets defeated, you always add a new horror card on top of your resource deck, and it will disrupt your actions and make the adventures more chaotic and less predictable. And for example, let's see which one I will show. Where is the panic attack? That's, well, here's one, for example, Tormented. It will hit the adventurer whose face is on the highest on the priority list. So if Nabo is playing, it will hit Nabo, if not Jainer, etc. And the player who gets tormented cannot delegate or scheme, and you can discard this when you have no resource cards in hand. So essentially, you can no longer use the special abilities down at the bottom at all, or you can't give cards to other players. So you can only move a survey move and fortify if the card has the fortify action. So it really limits on what you can do, and can disrupt your plans on how to win the scenario. And these are really, we have 24 unique ones in the game, and the promo pack that you get for free during the crowdfunding campaign, or you can purchase it separately later, will have 10 extra horror cards. So it's a large selection of unique horrors, and so you never quite know what happens, and you really want to protect the units from dying in order to avoid the horrors, even if they are quite fun at times. But the different scenarios and challenges will make use of the horror mechanic as well. So even if you manage to keep everyone alive, you will still see plenty of horrors in the game. Bartek says secret and hidden content and components were removed as well. Right, yes. So everything is like unlocked right away when you open the game box, and there's no hidden boxes like the original has here for some extra miniatures, and also the cards were not all opened, but you suppose they had large warnings like this lock that do not open this deck D until instructed to do so. And we don't have that kind of component unlocking anymore, but we do recommend everyone with a large black sheet like this, the welcoming letter, that the game contains the cards which you should not read aloud ahead of time. Please read the other side of this before continuing. So we do recommend for you to not read the resource cards nor the horror cards. The order cards or the horror cards, it's more okay to read the resources if you want, but even for those you can go blind in your first game if you want. But it's really fun experience playing each scenario for the first time without knowing what can happen, and you learn what the leaders are capable of doing and stuff like that. So you do have 6 scenarios that you can play for the first time without fully knowing what can happen, and that's a little bit like hidden content, but not really. So that's something to look forward to on that aspect. And the other side has a picture which shows where everything goes in the insert. As if you get the game, not everything is packed this neatly for the first time, as the factory is more. It's better if the factory can put all the meeples in large pack in some place and stuff like that, so they don't miss some components. So you do need to organize just a little. So we have this to help you with that when you initially open the game for the first time. Is that it, or is there something specific we want to compare still between the games? It's quite a long list of things. Let's see, the rulebooks content. There are individual small rules, but those are less important. I think that should be quite good overview of the differences between the different games. Yeah, well, the insert is white and not black, if you didn't notice that yet. I think that should be pretty good. Well, one thing is that the game box. Let's see if I can get this away from here. So the box size, they will be the same length and width, but the height of them. Let's see if I can. So I can show it. The new game will be slightly less tall. It will actually be a few millimeters less than this, as there's a little bit too much wiggle room right now over here, but we will reduce the height of the box few millimeters even more from here, so it will be a little bit smaller that way than the original. And the original is pretty much identical to Lands of Galzur and Tale of Merchants Collection if you own either of those. So comparison for that is that this one will be a little bit less tall. Welcome to the stream, Your Best Wish. They're asking if I have an estimate on time for each chapter. The original game has estimated playing time for each scenario. Like for example, number 6 is 70 to 110 minutes, and we are still playtesting the new one to see if there's large differences between time. And currently it's roughly from 1 to 2 hours depending on scenario, depending who you're playing with, how fast you go, if you win, if you have an early loss and things of that nature. But if we find out that it's about 1 to 2 hours for all the scenarios, we're just going to say the game is from 1 to 2 hours. But if we find that some scenario is always a bit longer than some other scenario, we will add them to the campaign log and the rulebook, or the scenario log. So for example, the first one we have rated 1 hour 30 minutes and the second 1 hour 45 minutes. But that's just a rough estimate, and if we find out that they are really close to each other, we are just going to remove the estimated time from here and have it on the box like a global estimate of 1 to 2 hours. But we need to design the last scenarios and, well, further playtest them and keep track of time, how long they take to have more data to put the times there. But it's roughly from 1 to 2 hours depending on scenario and depending how fast you play. The first playthrough of a scenario is usually a bit longer, closer to 2 hours, as all the order cards are new to you and you need to read them more. And then if you have consecutive plays of the same scenario, it can go a little bit faster. And then one thing I did remember is that the original had also extra challenges hidden on the back final page like this. So there are cooperative challenges for all the different scenarios. So each scenario had one unique challenge that you could try out, but most people never played these as they were hidden behind playing the full campaign, and then people, okay, we are done for now. So not many actually get to play these, but in the new one we have them right away. For example, here's the first scenario. You have the challenges for this scenario here right away. It says that after playing and winning the game, you can then try out these challenges. And same for the second scenario. It has 2 challenges over here, and all of them will have 2 unique ones. So we will have 6 unique scenarios with each having 2 unique challenges, which is 12. So we will have the same amount of challenges as in the original game, and you will be able to access them right away, as well as keeping track of them. Oh, I have too many things floating around here. It's actually here for some reason. And you will be able to use the included scenario log to keep track both did you win a scenario, did you win without any casualties, and then both of the unique challenges for each scenario. So the original had a campaign sheet that you could use to keep track of your campaign, but now we have scenario sheet which you can keep track of your progress and which scenarios you have won. Of course you can replay them even still, but it's fun to see, oh, we have never won this challenge. Let's try that one for next, for example. I think that's quite good representation of what the game has to offer and what are the differences between the games. And if you have any other questions that pop into your mind about Peacemakers Horror of War when you compare it to Dawn of Peacemakers, don't hesitate to put them down in the comments below, and I will answer them as soon as I get a chance. So if you have some questions, you might find them already answered down in the comments, and if not, don't hesitate to drop them there and I will get back to them as soon as I can. Thank you for everyone for joining the stream and those who came and watched the video later. The game is still a little bit over 1 week, 10 days, I think, right now, live on GameFound, and you can pre-order it from the link down in the description. And if you're watching that later, it should be on either late pledge or pre-order, or you can order it directly from our online store. So thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye. Bye!